Hi, I'm Bill Carmody, and I'm the Marketing Whisperer. My guest today is Mark Jaffe, who is a former executive at the Walt Disney Company and has just published a great book called The Suitcase of Happyness. Hi, Mark. How are you today?
I'm doing great, Bill. Thanks for having me on.
Wonderful to have you. So let's get happy.
Yes, absolutely. That's what this is all about, isn't it?
You have had a very relentless focus on happiness from a very young age. So take me back to sort of that first time when you decided you were going to be happy by default, and you're going to make this the core part of your business and existence.
Well, you know what? I was a very shy kid when I was younger. I had one friend, and he wasn't really well liked either. And so I figured this is just not the way to go. And I had this golden opportunity when I was 15. My parents decided to move to California. And all of a sudden I said, oh my goodness, I could be an astronaut. I could be a basketball player. Well, maybe not that. That they would figure out wasn't true. But I decided I completely do a personal makeover. And so I studied in junior high school everything that made kids popular. And I decided I was going to be the most popular kid. I practiced all my techniques about how to be popular, which really was about confidence and humor and connecting with others. And I practiced it every night on this cross-country trip, which we took in a tent trailer in the ubiquitous Rec Room at the KOA campground, where there was a new crop of preteens every year that I could practice on. And I realized I could become popular. And when I got to Los Angeles, I was popular. And a year later, I'm in this class called Awareness in Living, where you were supposed to give an impression anonymously of someone else in the room. And I'll never forget this. This one guy came up to me, sent me my impression. I don't know who it was, could have been a guy or a girl. And his comment was, you look at the world through rose-colored glasses. Do we live in the same world?
Oh, wow. Interesting. And so
Yeah,
he
and I
asked that
realized,
question. Yeah.
yes, I could do it. Within a year and a half, I had transformed myself from this shy, unhappy kid to a relatively popular, happy guy.
Wow. And so you made this choice to have sustainable happiness. And you're looking at this as a way to say, if I make these choices differently, I'm going to have different outcomes. Is that right?
Absolutely. And you use the exact right word. If there's one message that this book communicates, is that happiness is a choice. It doesn't come to those who passively wait. Yeah, on some occasions it does, but not frequently enough. That's when you have your fleeting moments. If you want happiness to be an enduring, lasting state, you have to make that choice and you have to pursue it.
So let's talk about that, because I think most people would argue that they want an enduring life of happiness, but there's a very different intersection between wanting and having. So where do you see this sort of going for people as they first make that choice? And I say, okay, I'm committed to it. I want to be happy for the rest of my life. I make that choice. Then what? How do I?
It's a focus. It's a focus. You have to really focus on happiness. I mean, I read that book, The Big Magic by Elizabeth Gilbert, where she talks about how creative ideas and inspiration is all around us. We just have to seize it. And the same is true with happiness. It's really about focusing on those things that give you happiness and collecting them. You know, I was at this meeting with all these super high-powered business people. Of course, I look in the room and go, what's wrong with this picture? And I go, oh, okay, I get it. I'm in the picture. But they're talking about their collection of artwork, their collection of cars. I mean, you know, the 2 Lamborghinis and a Ferrari later. And I'm thinking, don't look at me. I have nothing to add to this conversation. But on the way home, I realized I have the most incredible collection. I have this collection of happy moments. I collect them in this metaphorical suitcase that I have with me at all times. And I keep them with me and I surround myself with them and I create new ones as a result. And it's all about this focus on collecting these moments, having them part of your life, and then creating happy moments with them and with those around you as a result.
So here's as I'm sort of thinking about the voice of the audience, right? I'm thinking about the fact that sure, you can be happy when things are going great. So let's talk about things when things aren't so great. So I understand you had a very successful and happy marriage until it wasn't. So talk to me about sort of what you learned from that. How did you stay happy and stay positive even when things in your life weren't going the way you were planning them?
Well, I think that there's 2 types of unhappy moments. There are the types of unhappy moments that truly are barriers to your happiness. God forbid someone close to you dies, or in my case, as you had mentioned, I go through a painful divorce. And you have to work through the issues that result from that, either work through the grief, work through the anger. And those are true barriers to happiness. Because when you are grieving, it is so hard to be happy. You could have little moments of things that give you laughter, but there are 5 barriers actually that I've identified in the book to happiness, and I give very constructive, specific things you could do to get around them. But for the most part, for the second category of things that give you unhappiness, they can and do coexist. I mean, think about this conversation. I mean, I'm enjoying speaking to you. I have a big smile on the screen. I could have just gotten the worst news about a client that he doesn't want to work with me anymore. Yeah. Well, that's not going to stop me from enjoying this moment. That's not going to stop me from keeping my continual focus on happiness and being happy. That's just one problem of many that I'm going to encounter this day. So I think you have to kind of divide those types of unhappiness into barriers that you truly have to work on before you can relive the happiness and keep the happiness that you've created for yourself, which, hopefully don't happen more than 1 or 2 times in your life. And those temporary things that cause you to be disturbed or unhappy that really coexist with your true happiness.
All right. So let's get specific here for a minute. So I'm sure you go into great detail in the book, and I'm encouraging everybody who's listening to this and watching this to actually buy your book. So here's my question. What are the 5 barriers to happiness? Break them down for us.
Well, the first one is an inability to accept. People don't want to accept things that have happened. And in the book, I talk from an extraordinarily painful death that happened to a woman I loved, and how the process of acceptance and really going into what it takes to accept so you can move on, and how that can give you, take you through that barrier. I mean, when it comes to anger, control and logic, I've found can really work you through anger. The ability to control the things that are causing you anger, and the ability to utilize logic at a very, very emotional time. Another one is the trap of things. I mean, we, in America particularly, and in the Western world, we're so trapped by things, when in essence, things don't provide happiness. It's how we use those things in the context of things that make us happy that provides happiness. And I talk about the value of experience over things. And then one that you're probably intimately familiar with, given the fact that you write for Inc. magazine, is the endless pursuit of success. The ladder of success does not lead to more happiness. It just leads to yet another rung.
I think
there's always another rung, right?
Speaking on behalf of all entrepreneurs, absolutely. In fact, I would say that success doesn't breed more success. It breeds complacency, which basically leads to misery, right? Mm-hmm. So I totally hear that. Success, there is no end. The goalpost keeps moving when you're trying to be successful. Absolutely hear that one.
Right. And so the goal really is to say, how can you utilize your success to give you the ability to pursue and to enjoy happiness? I came up with it. I mean, it's funny because this book was really written as my personal legacy to my kids. I mean, how often do we get to talk to our kids in this kind of deep way about how we've been able to achieve something important to us, like I've been able to achieve this enduring state of happiness. And so this was a legacy to them. And I devised a definition for my son, who had just entered the workforce as a financial analyst, because he was talking to me about success and what does success mean, and how do I ever know if I've been successful? And I'm not sure my definition is the conventional one, but it's certainly the one that works for me. And I've defined success as the ability and the freedom to enjoy and experience the things you care about with the people you care about. That is success.
That's a great definition. I like that a lot. And tell me, you have 2 children. I have 2 children. Mine are younger than yours. I think mine are 12 and 9. And I think you said yours just start out in the workforce, right?
Right. One's 23 and my daughter's 26.
So how have you passed on this legacy of happiness to your children? And, as a parent, I can tell you it's often hard. It's more painful to see your children in pain than enduring your own pain. So when your children are not happy, I'm sure that's one of the things that sort of creeps into your own challenge of being happy. So how have you helped your children be happy and stay happy so that it also contributes to your own happiness?
Well, through example, I mean, I can't agree with you more. And, one is only as happy as their unhealthiest child or their unhappiest child. And I've heard that, and I believe it. I remember I was thinking about that question when I was writing the book. And there was one time we woke up one morning and I decided I was going to create this treasure map and we were going to go find a treasure together. So my daughter was a little older than my son, 3 years older. So she became kind of my co-conspirator, and we drew this map and we drew all sorts of treasures and landmarks, and we found a stream, and we took my son on this adventure, and I had this cute little silver bauble, and she's like, Jason, look, here's that tree. Here's the man with his face on it. All the people we never knew existed. She found them. We found this treasure, and he was digging furiously and screaming when he found it. And all of a sudden, as a result of that, we learned how to play together. And playing is just so joyful. And the easiest one I could tell parents is learn how to play with your kids. Because once you can just enjoy the presence of the moment, the presence of your being with them, you will have that forever. I mean, and now we travel all over the world together. A couple of years ago, we went to the Galapagos, which is this amazing place with all sorts of species and that aren't anywhere on the world, and all sorts of skin diving and hiking. My favorite moment was at 5 o'clock in the back of the boat, just sitting there as the sun would go down and having a drink and just enjoying the three of us in our moment together in our own little world. And to me, if you could achieve that kind of bonding, and by the way, it's not easy. Yeah. The best thing I could tell parents is the relationship that you have with your children after they turn 18 is a direct result of the investment you've put into that relationship before they were 18.
Awesome. So I want to switch gears here for a second, because I think there's a dichotomy here between sort of happiness by default and then sort of the things and the events in your life that sort of knock you off your game, and so you have to work hard to get back into it. So talk to me about your biggest failure. What was the time where you just totally ate it? I'm happy to share some of mine too. I think the thing is, we've all gone through a point where things just did not work utterly, and you can talk about the divorce. You can talk about sort of something that happened in your career, but it's more what I'm interested in is the event itself and then how you recovered from it.
Well, the event itself really was when I was running Walt Disney Records. I grew it from $30 million to $120 million.
Wow.
Some of the most amazing soundtracks of all time, from The Lion King to Little Mermaid and Beauty and the Beast. And the week I got The Lion King to #1 in the country, was the first #1 record the Walt Disney Company ever had since Mary Poppins.
Amazing.
I mean, it was just amazing accomplishment. We sold 10 million units. That week, I found out my boss was leaving. Someone who didn't like me was taking his place, and my contract wasn't being renewed.
Oh my God.
The week that was the pinnacle of my accomplishment and success was the week I lost my job. Wow. Involuntarily. And it was just a crushing blow. And I realized that, I realized two things. One, I better focus more on creating more lasting relationships with everybody I meet, rather than being more specific. I'm only going to do this with these people and this with these people. And I realized the power of relationships and the lack of power when you don't have them.
Yeah. Because
obviously, like I found out very quickly in the entertainment business, people want their own folks in there. But had maybe I developed a relationship with this individual, I would be her own folk. And exactly. So she'd say, love to have you, love to keep you. And so, but the other thing that I learned is the value of recreating oneself and starting over. And, I've recreated myself many times in my career. I mean, I went from the entertainment business and the music industry till I became too old for that in the late 30s, and then started a couple of enterprise software companies. And then I became the CEO of a financial services firm. And then I realized I just love growing businesses, and I've been growing revenues from small and mid-sized companies for the last 8-9 years. And then I had this inspiration that I wanted to share with my children, all the ways I've been able to create a happy life, literally and almost uninterrupted for the last 40 years. And maybe that's going to take me into a new area to follow my passion.
So tell me, how do you continue to grow from here? And specifically, what I'm interested in is what are you doing next in terms of you've done all these great accomplishments, you've written this book. Tell me what's next for you.
Well, what's next really for me is taking the principles behind the book and sharing them with as many people as possible. I mean, it's funny. I got to tell you, I never thought I would write a book. I really don't like writing that much. I mean, I realize I must be good at it. I've advanced this far in my career, but I don't really like it. And the thought of being the lonely writer at his desk, just with his head down for hours on end, is so unappealing. Well, I mean, really. But I had this inspiration. I really, as I wrote, the inspiration was flowing from my hands onto the page. And the oddest thing would happen every time I would write. I would be happier when I finished writing about happiness than when I started. And all of a sudden it occurred to me, if this thing hits, and who knows if it does, I mean, I'm self-publishing it. I'm so
Sure.
lucky that you found it interesting. But if this thing hits and then I get to talk to everybody as a career about being happy, I mean, to me, it doesn't get better than that.
That's a huge
So,
win.
yeah, so I think, I'm going to follow my passion. I'm going to see what happens. I'm going to try to give people these tools and these techniques that they could be happier in their lives. And if my legacy, in addition to what I've created for my family and those I love, if my legacy could be that I've impacted one additional life and change that one life so that they could be happier. I mean, there's a saying that he who saves one life is as if they've saved the world. Well, that would be an amazing legacy to have.
Absolutely, for sure. So tell me now, in order to attract the maximum number of people to help them understand your happiness principle and that suitcase of happiness, what are you doing to give something of value for free before someone even discovers your book or who you are? In other words, what's your marketing strategy to promote your book before they actually buy your book?
Well, it's important to give people some ability to understand the value that's in the book. And so if you were to go onto my website right now, suitcaseofhappyness.com, and happiness is Happyness because it's a new type of enduring state of being happy. So I spelled it differently.
Yep.
If you were to go to suitcaseofhappyness.com, right now, you could download 15 ways to wake up happy every single morning. It's a 3 or 4 page multicolored PDF that really has amazing tips that have worked for me, have worked for other people. I mean, I just put the word out there. Tell me what makes you happy in the morning. And I got all these responses and compiled them into this PDF at suitcaseofhappyness.com. And even if you don't buy the book, this will just give you the ability to be happier every morning. And when you start out happy, it's going to be a good day.
Absolutely. Absolutely. So, Mark Jaffe, your book is called The Suitcase of Happiness, and I'm assuming they can get it on Amazon. Are there any other bookstores or anywhere? Where should we send people to buy the book?
They could go to Amazon right now. It's available on paperback. It's available on Kindle. And just go to suitcaseofhappyness.com, Suitcase of Happiness on Amazon, and you could get it. Also, by the way, I don't know if you've heard of Wanderlust. They're one of the largest yoga and wellness companies in the world.
Oh, yeah, sure.
So Wanderlust engaged me to do a series of workshops on happiness. The first one is June 22nd in Wanderlust in Hollywood, and you could go onto their website, wanderlust.com/workshops, and you could find my workshop on June 22nd and sign up. It'd be great to see people.
Thank you, Mark Jaffe. I really appreciate you being on the show today. For more information on this and other topics, you can always go to facebook.com/marketing whisperer. So, Mark, thanks so much for being on the show today.
Thanks so much for having me, Bill. Have a great day.
You as well. Thanks so much.
Bye.